Hi, Sean.
Okay, nice. Okay, we got Chewy
Hi,
here.
everyone.
Hey, Barch.
Hey.
Hi.
Okay, so I think we should get to testing. I'm not very. I've had a lot on the go the last few days, and I injured my shoulder too, so I'm a little bit less prepared today. In fact, I'm not prepared at all. But I figure we can just get started anyways. Um, okay, so let's first of all remind everyone. So in the TEC Labs channel, there is a pinned message that links to the Notion workspace. And you'll now see at the top there's a link to the workshop, so the workspace for the CAD study group that's starting next week. And so you'll see the attendance sheet here in the workspace. So for everyone here, go ahead and open up the attendance sheet, and we'll fill in some emojis for the day. Okay. Yeah, so if anyone has questions along the way, just let me know. I hope everyone can find the Notion workspace.
Hey, YGG.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a very like not catching up with the lab for a while, and I feel always lost when I come to the calls. Do you have like one thing I could watch that would put me up to date? Like one or another session to um advise?
Yeah, good question. The labs are pretty what I would call non-serial, so they don't. I don't usually one lab doesn't really depend on a previous, other than we've done a few series, of course, like the chess thing and the params modeling at the beginning, and now we're doing testing contracts. But I think most people feel lost. So you don't have to, it's good you say this because you're definitely not the only one. But the only mandatory part of the labs is at the beginning to get it, find your way to the attendance sheet and plug in an emoji. Just because I think that sparks a little bit of participation. It gets people to feel that yeah, they can open up the materials on the fly as we're going and start to edit stuff as well. So let me know if you can find the attendance sheet. That's always like the first challenge of the day to wake people up.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And so yeah, because it also makes sure that everyone can find the workspace that has all the materials. Um, and that workspace is pinned from the labs channel. And the attendance sheet is. Did you find it?
I found it. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And then you can pick your favorite emoji. I guess Google Sheets doesn't have emojis by default, but I always just go to this website, getemoji.com, and you can search and you can copy and paste one. Awesome. Okay. So let's jump in. So I don't have too much planned for testing the labs. In fact, Chewy might want to kind of jump in and give us an update or kind of help drive. But what I was planning on doing is just going back, opening up what we have, and let's see if this is like documented. Okay, so lab 15. So we have a link to this article. I use this as kind of a map. This blog post is kind of a map of what's involved with the hatch, the different contracts needed for the freeze, the migration tools, which need documentation and tests, which I know the Commons Swarm team has been like really working hard on. And then the hatch template tests and the Commons upgrade, but that comes later. This week, in fact, I think this weekend, there's a push to really get the hatch contracts and the migration tools ready for a freeze. So I think what we should do is open these up and take a look. Hatch template. Yeah. So we have the migration tools and the hatch template. And just to make sure everyone is able to follow along, what I've done here is I've opened up this blog post. And additionally, in the Notion workspace, there's the calendar. So I always try to open up a page. So you can go to the calendar and find today's date. And today is Lab 16. So this is hatch, edit. So this is hatch testing part 2. And from there, I'll make sure there's this link to the state of the hatch blog post. And from there, you can find all the components of the hatch and check them out. So I've just opened up the first two, which are the migration tools and the hatch template. And so our job is, I think we should add some information to the readmes. Last week, we got some help on how to actually run these contracts and run the tests. But we didn't finish our job, which would be like documenting that in the README. So that's what I want to accomplish for today. And first of all, just to double check to make sure we remember how to run the contracts and run the tests. So I think that's what we'll do first. But I think I'll pause there and check in and see. Maybe Chewy, I'm wondering, do you have any information, or do you want to give us a kind of summary of how everything's going, what you guys are working on, and if there's anything else we should be aware of?
Actually, I'm here because I'm trying to get to start getting a hold of what happens in labs, but I really have like zero experience in all of this, in GitHub. So I just wanted to to just like observe maybe and
Oh, that's no problem.
and try
Yeah.
to start. Yeah, yeah.
I thought you were.
Yeah, because
I thought you were a hardcore, like I thought you were writing all these tests and stuff. But I think maybe your involvement is more sort of managerial and like process tracking and stuff. Because
Chewy's the comms lead. He makes sure that we amplify what we're doing.
Awesome. Okay, that's great to know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Chewy. So the labs are usually more of a data science, token engineering flavor. Like usually we're opening up Jupyter notebooks and working in Python and doing some modeling. But just I know it's the last push before the hatch freezes. So I wanted to use the labs as a space to help out the Common Swarm team as much as possible and educate the community on what is involved, because we're at a stage where what's needed is documentation and testing, And that's kind of what a lot of people can help out with that, even if they're not like master Solidity developers, like myself. So I just wanted to sort of capture and broadcast the process of actually running these contracts, and poking around with the tests, and then making some contributions to the documentation. So we'll keep going with that today. Does anyone else have anything they want to add or questions? Cool. Okay, so let's see if we can recall where we left off last time. Now this is where things get a little bit crazy. When I open up the terminal, let's increase the font here. So, have all sorts of repos here. I'll just make a clean directory. So we have this empty, and just in case anyone's like new, you probably can't see stuff on my screen too well. Sorry about the dark theme everywhere. But all I've done is, I'm navigating the terminal here, and the terminal is just a reflection of the file system on the computer. So I'm going through all my files. I'm in my workspace /tec, and I just created this directory called clean, so there's nothing in it. It's just an empty folder, so this is all the TEC stuff that I have on the go, and I just go into this folder called clean, and there's nothing in here. So I'm going to clone these repositories from scratch. So just on GitHub, make sure you star it, and maybe I'll just drop links to these directly as well into the lab so that everyone can track, even if they're just showing up. And these are good to be aware of because these are the two components that are being launched. These represent the hatch. These are all the smart contracts that are going to go into the hatch. The hatch template is the hatch itself, and the migration tools is just a collection of tools that will facilitate the upgrade from the hatch DAO to the commons DAO. And what they do is they actually migrate funds. So they take the funds from the redeemable reserve and the non-redeemable reserve, and they migrate them. They send those funds forward to, I think it's the same terms. I think it's wait, no, what would it be? So it takes the redeemable reserve and the non-redeemable reserves, and that's in the hatch. Those are held by the hatch DAO. And in the commons DAO, we'll have Griff, you might be able to help me out. What would these vaults be called in the commons DAO? Would they be the same things? They wouldn't be like redeemable and non-redeemable, would they?
They're called funding pool and reserve, and they're all technically agents. So
Cool.
yeah, I mean, a vault is a specific type of Aragon application that usually is connected to the finance app, and then there's these agents which have a lot more. They have a lot more surface area. They can do what is generally like. They can pass data through transactions. Vaults are like very secure, and you can't do anything with them but send money out. Whereas agents can make arbitrary message calls, like they can actually call contracts and interact with contracts.
Okay, so when we're calling them vaults, it's a little bit of a misnomer because they're actually agents.
Yeah, I mean, it's only because the Aragon, it's not, I wouldn't say misnomer. It could be confusing if someone is deep on the technical side, just because the Aragon has a vault and they have an agent app, and both can hold money, but vaults are very restrictive on what they can do, whereas agent apps are very open to what they can do.
Yeah.
So it's just if you called it a bank or something, it'd be fine, but a vault, there might be some confusion.
Yep. Because vault is a very technical term.
Yeah, it's just a name of an application. I mean, it would only matter to maybe 500 people in the world that play with Aragon apps enough to know what a vault is.
Yep,
So,
exactly. Oops. Okay, so let's grab one of these. Let's take this hatch template. So on GitHub, I'm gonna copy the link, and in my terminal, I'm going to go git clone and paste that in. So we're grabbing the hatch template. Okay, so we got it there. So I'm going to go into the hatch template, and I think from last week, I'm just going to try this out. So we had like yarn. Okay, maybe we just run yarn to start. Okay, so this is in getting all the dependencies. So if for anyone who doesn't know, yarn is a package manager for JavaScript programs. So I'm just going to split my screen here, and we can open up the actual code. So here's the actual code in this repository, and you'll see it matches. Let's see. Yeah, so we have Docker, packages, okay, and then package.json, yarn.lock. So we could explore these right on GitHub. And if you see package.json, this is what we include with every JavaScript program, like, or repository that you might find on GitHub. And Solidity projects, smart contracts, maybe I'll give a little bit of background here. It's the concept of Web3. So what is Web3? Web3 is a hybrid between Solidity and the Ethereum world, and JavaScript and the web world. And how it works is you take your smart contracts, and they get compiled using a program called Solidity. And the Solidity program takes a smart contract and compiles it down into a bytecode. Or in Ethereum, it's called the Application Binary Interface, or the ABI. So you can think of an ABI as a compiled smart contract, and it's literally like a punch card. So you might remember, or you might know about like the history of computing. Before people had these actual like teleterminals, like a television screen that they could interact with the computers with, they would actually use paper punch cards. So they would encode their program that they want to run and execute onto a paper card, and they would insert that card into the mainframe or whatever, and then that card would get read, and the computer program would run what was on that card. And the debugging process was a nightmare, because if your program had a bug in it, you'd actually have to go and repunch your card. And so it was a very slow developer loop, and so we should be very grateful for the tools that we have available today. But now things always come full circle, because basically Ethereum, or what you call the Ethereum virtual machine, which is what runs on any Ethereum node, it's running the Ethereum virtual machine. You can think of that as literally a little machine, a little computer machine, that you have to insert a punch card into to get it to execute what you want it to do. And so that punch card is the ABI, the Application Binary Interface, and it's what gets fed into an EVM. You know, whether you're running a node locally, or maybe you're using Infura, which is like a cloud-hosted Ethereum nodes. But if you want to deploy smart contracts, you have to compile them into the ABI, and then you have to get that ABI to a node somewhere. And maybe you run it locally, maybe it's on Infura, maybe it's somewhere else. And once that punch card is inserted into the EVM, then that EVM will execute your program, your smart contract, and it will also broadcast that to every other Ethereum node. And when you run a smart contract, it gets ran on every Ethereum virtual machine that's connected to the network. So if you're running on mainnet, then and you deploy a smart contract and run it, then you're making that punch card, you're inserting it into an EVM somewhere, and then that EVM is broadcasting it so that every other EVM in the world also runs that program. And this is why gas is so expensive, because when you do something on Ethereum, you're doing it on every Ethereum node. So it's a super inefficient process, but it achieves this goal of like globally maintained state of a computing system. So it's super cool. So what is Web3? This is the whole point of this. Web3 is we compile our Solidity contracts into these like punch cards, and then we take these punch cards and we embed them in a JavaScript application. And a JavaScript application is just like a web app, right? So we now have web apps that have compiled smart contracts inside of them. And so they can send those around. You know, you could request, you can pass them around like any piece of data. And when you need to, you can insert them into an EVM, and that EVM will run them. So that's a long-winded summary of like what is Web3. It's this hybrid combination of web and Ethereum, which is super cool. And I'm wondering in here if we have, sometimes when this stuff gets compiled, we can probably actually find the ABIs. I can show you what they look like. But right now, so remember we ran yarn, and this installed all of our dependencies, which we would see in this new directory called node modules. And so these are all of our JavaScript dependencies, and also like Solidity. You know, I think Solidity package managers use the same approach. We install things with this as a node module. So these are all of our dependencies that we just grabbed by running this yarn command. So I'm going to add that to the README. Everything in the README so far that we see here is just default from Scaffold ETH. So let's start adding our own TEC documentation here. So, oops, go full screen. So this is like token engineering commons hatch template. Maybe it's common swarm. Common swarm hatch template. And then we can say how to run locally. So the first thing we did was we cloned. So I'm going to, so we ran this git clone. Okay. So first clone this repository. Okay, secondly, go into the repository and use yarn to install dependencies. So that's simply yarn. I just ran yarn. Oh no, first I actually changed directory, so this is the cd command. So cd into the repository, which is called hatch template. So cd hatch template, and then I ran yarn, and this installed all the dependencies, no problem. Okay, so that's where we're at now. Now the next step, I believe, if I recall from last week when we figured all this out, is to run the chain. I think it's yarn chain. So this is using the hard hat framework, which is an Ethereum development environment. And it's going to run a local chain, a local Ethereum chain, and then it actually compiles all the contracts and deploys them to the local chain. And so now we're hosting an Ethereum blockchain at this address. So for anyone who doesn't know or doesn't recognize this IP address, this is a super special, unique IP address. It's called the loopback address, and it's the same on every computer. And it means if you try to access this IP address on the internet, it takes your request and it loops it back to your own computer. And you can also substitute this for a word. The keyword is localhost, all one word, localhost. So this is when you run like web services on your own computer. This IP address allows you to access them. So right now on our own computer, we're running our Ethereum node at this port 8545. So any system or program now that we run locally can make Ethereum, like this is an Ethereum node running. So however we typically interface with an Ethereum node, and the way we do that is through the JSON RPC. That's like a protocol. We can now hit this and like deploy contracts to it or make transactions, all sorts of stuff. So we have a test chain running and the contracts are deployed. Now it looks like a bunch of like warnings here. You know, I'm not sure what all this is. Let's see where it starts. So it says compiling 80 files, and then it has warning, defining constructors as functions with the same name as the contract is deprecated. Use a constructor instead. So it looks like in all of these Aragon contracts that we're importing, probably they were written a few years ago, and they use some outdated standards. Particularly this one is naming... oh, this is mini-me token. We should blame Griff.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Griff was involved with the invention of this mini-me token, which allows, like... Is that right, Griff?
I wrote all the comments. Oh yeah, I wrote all the comments in the Solidity code. That's right.
Wow.
All of them.
That's quite the achievement.
Oh yeah. I know. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, mini-me token was a great invention. It allows, it's essentially a snapshot. I think nowadays there's snapshot, which is kind of a newer thing, but mini-me token allows like the duplication of a token so that we can track exactly which wallets have what accounts at a certain moment in time. And then from there, it enables things like governance. We can do voting, or just general snapshotting. And how is it being, is that right, Griff, or do you want to comment on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is that it's an upgradable token, a really easily upgradable token, and it was from the DAO experience, like it was made specifically for DAOs so that you could do voting at like where you can easily snapshot, and then the people who had tokens at the time of the vote could vote, but not people who get tokens later, and it doesn't lock your tokens. There was just a lot of, from the first DAO, there was a lot of lessons learned, and we integrated them into the mini-me token contract, and it ended up being used by Aragon Status, Storm City, and Bloom, and a whole bunch of other groups. And it's still in use today with OneHive. Honey is a mini-me. Anything that interacts with the Aragon DAOs is a mini-me token.
Cool. Super cool stuff. So yeah, a bunch of warnings, but don't let these scare you. In our in our hatch template, we have function state mutability can be restricted to view. Okay, so these we might actually want to pay attention to. Here's a few opportunities in the hatch template. We might want to go through these. This is an opportunity, and I don't know exactly, like I'm not the expert here. There's some devs like Sem who are like working on this, really building this stuff and have mastery, but these kinds of warnings might come up, like if we do the hatch freeze and we might want to just at least check all these warnings before we freeze the templates and submit them. This could be something, sometimes a warning is indicating some sort of like misuse, or things could be tightened up. Like this says, this function get stored address transaction 1. It could be a view function, And I think by making this a view function, it means it's read-only, and it could potentially have a speed up in performance if this is labeled as a view function. So it's nice to see that there's only 3 warnings on the hatch template, so that's actually pretty good. But it's nice to see these. So yeah, our local chain is running and the contracts are compiled. And the next step, if I have this reverse search, so oh yeah, so we can run the tests with this command, yarn test, and we have to specify our network as localhost, which is exactly this JSON RPC that I was talking about with localhost. So let's run that, and it should run all the tests. Ooh, we got an error. I think I had this error before, and it's
We had it last week,
yeah.
and you just removed the lock because it's optional.
Okay, yes, and where are we here? Oh yeah, here. So it's in test hatch.ts. Okay. Test hatch.ts and line 21 here. Okay, let's try that again. So we're going through the hatch flow. Successfully generated type chain artifacts. Every 5 seconds, a new block is minted on our test chain. So probably we could use. I remember last week, was it Fabio showed us how to put logging information in our tests? Oh, okay, here we go. So transaction 1 completed. The hatch DAO is created. Dandelion voting and hooked token manager is set up. Transaction 2 completed. Impact Hours app and Hatch app set up. And transaction 3 completed. Tollgate, redemptions, and conviction voting apps set up. Done in 92 seconds. Cool. So that is what we have for the test suite for the Hatch template. So what I want to do is I actually want to make a pull request so I've taken this log parameter out because there's something wrong with the log that we're passing in. And what was that error exactly? Error. Argument of type string. Yeah, it's just this little simple error. It's expecting a string, and we're passing like not a string, some sort of log object. So I think I'm going to commit that change so that the tests run. And I'm also going to finish the documentation that I was adding to the README. So thirdly, so this is actually how to run tests on a local chain. So the thirdly, run the tests. Run the tests with the specified network as localhost. And that command was this one. Okay. So let's do our Git thing now. So I'm going to run Git Status. So it says we've modified the README, the hatch.ts, and the yarn.lock. What is different in yarn.lock? I think we've installed different versions of libraries. So we're not going to commit that file. The yarn lock file just keeps, it's a way of locking in all of the dependency, like the versions of all the dependencies that we use. I'm not going to mess with that because it could potentially break something. Like the development team might have all of their dependencies locked in a way that it for sure works. I mean, it would probably be safe to add this because the tests did pass. So if we have a comprehensive testing suite and the tests are all passing, then it seems like the dependencies that we've installed this time all work. But I think it's good that we have tests, but I don't know to what extent it's fully comprehensive, and I wouldn't want to accidentally break something that the development team has locked in place. So I'm not going to add that yarn lock file, but I'm going to go git add on the readme and git add on the test that we updated. But before I do that, I think I'll go, well, yeah, I can do that. Sorry, what is that? Oh, I typed git add twice by accident. Okay, so we can check Git Status. So these are added and ready for a commit. But before I commit, I'm just going to check out a brand new branch so that we can make a pull request. So I'm going to go git checkout -b for branch, and we can call this documentation and tests. Good, now I can commit. So we have our two files ready for commit, so I can say git commit and add a message, started TEC custom documentation on the readme, and updated and fixed a small error in the testing suite. Sweet, so we've made that commit, and now we can make a pull request. So I should be able to push this branch. So we can check with this command, git remote -v, it reminds us like what repository we're working on. So we're working on github.com, common swarm, hatch template. Okay, that looks good. So, and the name of that remote is called origin. So we go git push to origin, and our branch is called documentation and tests. It says permission denied. Okay, I don't think I have org access to the common swarm.
Yeah, we locked that down. We can give you.
It's okay. It's okay. I don't need access. I'm going to show how a community member would do this. So
okay, cool.
We have here the common swarm hatch template. So I'm going to fork that to my own GitHub, which is Longtail Financial. Okay, so now I have my own fork, right? So now I can do whatever I want here. No one can stop me. The beauty of open source. And so now I'm going to work off of this fork. So I'm going to add that as a remote. So I go git remote add, and I'm going to call it LTF, and I'll paste in the location. So now if we do git remote dash v, we can see that we have two different working repositories upstream. So we can like pull from either of them, but we can only push to LTF. So what I can do is I can push to LTF. So I can go git push to LTF, and this branch is called documentation and tests. Okay, so it says, yep, success, and if you want to open a pull request, go here. So we see now on this Longtail Financial fork, it says we have recent pushes on a different branch. So let's check that branch. And it says one commit ahead of common swarm. So we can then go ahead and create a pull request. And we are asking to merge into master. I think that's okay. And yep, this has all the information we need. It's just a single commit. It should be easy to review. Maybe I'll just clean this up a little bit. Small update to readme and hatch test. And I'll just say this provides instructions on running the tests and fixed a small bug where the log was getting passed to the tests. It expected a string. So please review that section, and we might want to expand the features or documentation on that logging process, because it looked like because a log, for anyone who's not familiar, what is this log thing? A log is just an object that you can say things to it, and it's going to take those messages and store them in places that we want to keep them, or it's going to display them to the screen. So when we run the tests, we might want to like log a whole bunch of information about what's happening. And so that log that was trying to get passed into the test I actually saw this in the code earlier. It has, actually I think all it does is it adds some it makes the output more pretty. I think that's all it was doing. So it's really non-essential. But it might be sort of a placeholder for something that could be expanded. We could take that log, and instead of just using a log that makes things pretty, we could add a log that like sends all the output to some database somewhere. So maybe they had that in there as like a future thing they want to be passing to the tests. I'm not sure, but I'll just add this note so that they're aware of it. Cool. So now there's an open pull request on the hatch template, which will update the documentation so that everyone can run the tests. And in fact, we might want to take this moment. We could go into the migration tools as well. It would be a very similar process. But I would actually like to invite everyone to try to replicate this process and see if we can all run the contracts locally. It should work. I'm going to go back to the Longtail Financial, and we see that documentation and tests. Okay, I'm actually going to merge this into the master branch on the Longtail Financial fork. So should be able to, let's see, pull request, new pull request. So I can merge from, this documentation and tests branch into master on Longtail Financial. Able to merge, create, and okay, create that, and I should be able to merge it. So it's checking for automated checks, that's good, and I should be able to merge this pull request, confirm, and now if we go to Longtail Financial on the master branch, we should see the documentation. Yes. Except it's kind of, it's not, it could be formatted much nicer. So I'm just going to make a, and this will hopefully be caught by the Commons Swarm team. We can actually make this into little code snippets, and it's going to look much cleaner. Oops. Okay, that looks a lot better. So, commit. Phew. Okay, so 10 minutes left in the lab. Who wants to go ahead and run these contracts locally?
I'm already trying to.
Excellent.
The tests fail on my machine, but the rest is working.
Oh, the tests fail.
Hmm.
Do you want to share your screen?
Sure. How do I do this? Do you see it?
Yes. Okay.
The first test works. It's doing fine, but the next, and it's as well in the hatch TS line 34, somewhere down here. Took this out.
So you had taken out the log and it's still failing?
Yes.
And it's on transaction number 3. It's so interesting. Okay. And what is it? I can't quite read the text in red. What is it saying there?
Better? Or this one?
I wonder if you can try Control plus or Control Shift plus or something. I wonder if you can get that font to increase a little bit. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what could cause this.
I cannot increase the font size. I'm sorry about
Okay,
this.
that's okay. Let's see. HTTP. Do you see anywhere where it just says error? Error here. A VM exception while processing transaction. Revert error. Impact hours not fully claimed. Impact hours not fully claimed. let's jump into the code and see where this is triggering. So hatch flow, when max goal is reached, closes the contracts. Yeah, jump to the code and search for closes the contracts. Nice, okay.
Close the hatch is
Oh yeah,
here.
closes the hatch.
Sorry, I'm gonna increase the size. Oh.
Nice. Now I remember Fabio last week showed us how to put breakpoints in the code. It was so cool, but do you remember? Cause
Yes. Hold on. It's about configuring the. And I have to run it here, so I have to stop. No, here it's not running anymore, so I'm gonna. Is it the test?
yeah, try hitting the play button.
Probably.
Looks like it's running.
Could not read.
Successfully generated artifacts, okay.
Challenges my machine, so okay, here we are. I'm gonna press F10 to put. Now we have a new hatch. No, it's undefined. So I jump in with F11. Oh, where are we now? Hold on. We've been here.
Can you jump out from commons?
From here,
should be step out, or yeah, try that one.
step out.
And then again, I think.
And again.
One more? It might be too far. Yeah, we're in index.ts.
I see it. We're somewhere very deep.
Yeah.
Come on, jumps around.
So maybe what we can do, this is cool. We've got you right here in the sort of debugging workflow. But since we're getting short on time, why don't you just copy and paste the error outputs and go ahead and just go right to the Commons Swarm repo and open an issue.
All right. Yeah, I will do this.
Thank you, YGG. I have to hop. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Griff. See you later.
Bye.
Yeah, that's probably the hour. So I'll say thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Does anyone have anything? Any comments or questions? And yeah, looking forward to seeing the issue that you post there, Barch. Because I'll be able to read all through all of it, and we can probably get some insights from the dev team as well on there. I'll
Great.
Yeah, maybe just post a link to the issue once you create it. Post a link, just drop the link in the labs channel.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Today was a very nice from 0 to 1,000 session. So it was nice to follow. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Levy.
Yeah, Sean, it was great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks, Chewy. Awesome. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, no problem.
See ya.
Yep. Cool. Okay. So it's Andy, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Sean.
Yes. Really appreciate you being so active in the labs. That helps a lot. Oh, hey, Nico.
Hey, Sean.
No, yeah, we're just wrapping up. I was just gonna say for whoever's left on the call here. So the labs are taking a new format as of next week. Blair is going to be championing like a CAD collaborative study series for like 6 weeks, and there's going to be some capstone projects at the end. It'll be kind of similar to what is happening in the Gitcoin research track now, but a lot more like introductory and basic level. It'll be study sessions for like 6 weeks, and then everyone will kind of work on some projects and do some presentations. So Tonga, you might be really interested to follow along on that. Yeah, everyone here probably we could help out a lot. So
Yeah, looks good.
awesome.
You know, I got hacked. Maybe in the future we can study security somewhere.
Good point, Tonga. What was the hack?
In my MetaMask accounts, every time any money gets in, it gets like in the same minute resent to another account.
Oh my goodness, that's so scary. Because yeah, especially if we're dealing with large amounts, or imagine like all of our TEC tokens, all of our impact hours, something like that. Like, yeah, we should.
Yeah, because we use MetaMask to relate. Like most people, there is other wallets, but most people use MetaMask. So it can happen.
Yeah, this is a really good point, Tonga. I think we should have a security focus. There could almost be like a security working group, but maybe that's too much. But I think it's an important topic. We should at least have like a document, maybe like as part of because there's a lot of documentation for the TEC. We should have some security best practices documented.
Yeah, luckily I never had much money there, but I hadn't even realized that was happening. But I always had 0 Ether in MetaMask, and I thought because okay, I never put money here, but looking at the history, even in more than one address, like I have like 7 addresses, and at least in 2 of them, it's happening, and it happened last year. I didn't realize, so it's been like 3 or 4, like between $50 and $100 hacks. Like it's a script that it's detecting whenever anything comes in, and it pays the highest fee.
Oh wow! So someone got your private keys essentially, right?
Yeah, that seems like what is happening. But I never put it anywhere. Like even I would have trouble finding it. Like I'm just paying attention to it lately. I never touch the private key.
That's quite scary, yeah, especially for me because I'm trying to really do a business in like providing token engineering, right? And sometimes getting paid in tokens, so it can actually be quite large amounts.
I've seen Gabi. He has the ledger connected to MetaMask. That is a bit safer, I think.
Yeah, it's time to start looking into those things.
It happened to me with account in MetaMask connected to Ledger. So
Wow.
I don't know what. I think I approved a contract of a scammer, and I don't know how to get rid of this approval. So
Yeah, that Griff told me to not use the account anymore.
Yeah.
Like change it, and also Anisoptera from One Hive told me